Great, here we are doing the live stream. I'm going to pour a drink that I forget what it is. One of my barrel-aged cocktails, they were all good, so I don't mind which one this is. Wait, where's that? Oh, it's all the way over here. I thought I was organised. I had my orange in a gettable spot. It's got weird things on it. Okay, let's go. Citrus oils. I like it. So here we go. Hello, Megaleech, Gecko, Robot Man Greg. Ooh, nice bit of orange oil on there. Put that in to get some flavor happening. And my cherries. Finished? All right, just putting the ice cream back in the freezer. All right. Ooh. Splash screen. Oh, you mean thumbnail? Oh, Glee, sorry, you're only just hearing about Mimsy. Yes. Mimsy did her little trip over the Rainbow Bridge a couple of weeks ago now. And hello, Lee, too, by the way. Oh, no, Gecko, Dallas is frozen. See, that always sounds weird. You get this distorted view of, like, Texas. Texas is hot. But, of course, you know, Texas has winter. Work cancelled because Texas is frozen. Gosh darn. So that's the Mimsy art. Mimsy art. Probably show up closer later. But used as a thumbnail for YouTube and Facebook. All right. See if I really. Oh, hi, Gecko. So, it's the first you've heard. Thank you. Yes. So. Oh, yum. It's a vermouthi one. Oh, yum. That's really good. Sweet variation on Manhattan. Most of them have actually been variations on Manhattans. Yes. So, Mimsy outlived AIDSy by a couple of weeks. So, there you go. It's it's a funny time that we live in. It's yeah. So that was that, and people who watch lots of streams might remember Megaleech's offspring, Tassie Jr., was doing paintings a couple of streams ago, a week or so ago, and then sent them. Thanks, Lee. So it's Mimsy in space, and Dr. Abigail got some ducks in space paintings. So they're all super cool. Really like them. So it's the sort of kickoff for the week, I guess. See, Gecko, we'd known the time was coming for Mimsy for a while. She'd been very sick for a very long time with thyroid problems. She'd gotten super skinny, and just turns out she had a whole cavalcade of other health problems, and she was about 18 years old, and that's human years. So, yeah, it came in the time when it was the right thing to do. Ooh, nice. Glee got some Uber Eats arriving. Enjoy that. Unfortunately, Glee, that is a thing that happens more regularly the longer you're on this green earth. So, it almost makes me think of this week's episode of The Last of Us. I'm not going to give any, well, apart from saying it's very good, everyone's saying how good this episode of The Last of Us is. And it is very good. It's very unexpected, actually. We saw what's likely to be the happiest characters we'll see in this season. Fox. Sorry, there's a few people finding out for the first time. We actually lost Mimsy a couple of weeks ago. And Dr. Opio. So, yes, Megaleech, The Last of Us, very emotional, just beautifully acted by basically guest actors in the season. Like, slight spoiler, the episode does not center on the two main characters. It centers on some other characters. And it's just an amazing bit of television. But yes, if you are at all interested in The Last of Us, I'd recommend you don't dilly-dally watching episodes because they're going to get spoiled for you because they're very good and people can't help talking about them. And yes, The Last of Us is proving to be a show of surprising depth. Like the first two episodes were very much, the game, the darkness, the post-apocalypse, the horribly infected people. And then, episode 3, quite a surprise. Who knows what's happening for the rest of it? But it's very much, actually, it's like hands down the best video game adaptation that's ever been done. Like, I can't think of anything that is even close to it, actually. Gecko, I haven't watched the Willow series. I have to admit, I don't have a huge amount of interest in watching it. Glee, The Last of Us in Australia is on Binge or Foxtel. It's an HBO program. But yes, it is very much shaping up to be a benchmark against which all other shows will be measured. And it's coming across as it's going to be so good that in the future, literally saying a show is half as good as The Last of Us will be quite an endorsement because it's so far ahead of the competition. I did watch Willow growing up. Young Warwick Davis in it. And, of course, Warwick Davis is in the new series as well. It was very early in Warwick Davis's career, if not his first major role. And he's done heaps of stuff over the years, including being an Ewok in Star Wars because he's a little person. So when they wanted someone little who wasn't a kid, I guess, Warwick Davis got a gig. Lee got a deal on your phone plan. Nice. Oh, wow. Oh, yes. And Tortuga, where the pirates sail through the bay. You can do that too. You haven't seen Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones. Well, I'm sure you've heard Game of Thrones is really good for a lot of its run. And then the last season disappointed the hell out of everyone. Breaking Bad is fucking phenomenal. It's very good. Just a very, very different sort of show. Very complex storytelling. Strictly Sega. Well, low-key reveal is there. It's Mimsy's got to be on the fridge, so Mimsy will join in all streams now. I suppose I haven't held it up close. I'm gonna hold it up close. It's like a big postcard size. It's very cute. And it's such Look at that. And that's Shadow in the corner. The possibly not real cat. But that's Mimsy in space. And it's absolutely beautiful. And now I've got to put it back. So should we say Breaking Bad's the only TV show stood up and clapped on your TV? Odd, but I'll allow it. As a very good show. Also, even although watched it with some trepidation, the sequel movie they made for Netflix was very good. El Camino. I was going to say Grand. I was getting confused with because it's named after a car in El Camino. Confused with that Clint Eastwood movie. What was that? I was going to say Gran Turismo, but that's a video game. Was season 4. Brother Hank escaped. Gran Torino. Thank you, Gecko. See, that's why Gran Turismo was stuck in my head. Very similar. Oh, yes. To Bowie in Space. We do Mimsy in Space by Flight of the Conchords. Good call. Good call. I'm also watching at the moment a show that's on Prime called The Rig, based on, it's set on an oil rig off the coast of Scotland where strange things are happening. It's very interesting. It's a good watch so far. Quite enjoying it. So half as good as The Last of Us. So quite good. What did we watch? The heist movie Kaleidoscope on Netflix. I'd say that's half as good as The Last of Us too. So it's worth watching. As I said before when I talked about it, quite unlike other heist movies or shows. I was very interested, and because heist movies tend to follow a particular thing, and this didn't do it, so it kept throwing me off because I was going, are they faking us out? No, they weren't faking us out. That's just the thing that happened. Okay. Gecko watching anime. American Animation Owl House on Disney. Oh, okay. Cool. Ali, I don't think it's the Loch Ness Monster, given that's on mainland Scotland, but something from the depths. A big ass box. So you have, that implies the existence of a medium ass box and a small ass box. So you just had them. Oh my gosh. That's a whole thing. All right, I'll bite Megaleech. Why are Netflix about to lose a bunch of subscriptions in Australia? Okay, I'm not familiar with that one. Off the mark, like Naked Gun or Hot Shot. So just the rapid fire jokes. I'm not familiar with that one though. Actually, here's the weird thing: the guy who is writing The Last of Us, he wrote the miniseries Chernobyl, proven himself to be an extremely good writer. He actually got his first big break. He wrote Scary Movie 2 and 3, or maybe 3 and 4. I don't know how many scary movies they are. Miglich, I know they're talking about not sharing accounts. Oh, right. So they're saying you can't watch it from other locations. Well, we'll see what they implement and if they do anything like blocking VPNs as well. Lee, I also have Amazon's streaming Prime. Several things that were on Prime that I just had to watch, so I got it. There is a shit ton to watch on there. So what was this one? Best movie you saw this week: Sextet 1977, written by and starring Mae West. Wowzers! I have never heard of that. Now I want to look this up. Right, autocomplete. Sextet 1977. Bizarrely, apparently a 1978 film. Musical comedy, directed by Ken Hughes, released by Carnage International, stars Mae West, includes Timothy Dalton, Dom DeLuise, Tony Curtis, Ringo Starr, Keith Moon, George Hamilton, Alice Cooper, and Walter Pidgeon. Holy shit. That is a fucking incredible cast. Although I expect some of them are cameos. That's pretty wild, though. Ah, yes, Lee, Peripheral, very good. Adaptation of an extremely good William Gibson novel. William Gibson, one of my favorite authors, right back to his first trilogy, the Neuromancer trilogy, where he popularized our modern concepts of cyberspace. But what was interesting, okay, it's a few years since I read The Peripheral. I listened to the audiobook of the sequel just last year, a couple of months ago, and it's very good too. The TV show has, for a while, I was second guessing myself because it's quite a few years since I read The Peripheral, but I eventually became quite clear the TV show has taken some quite radical departures from the book while keeping to the central themes. It's basically, and it's really good. It's basically they are exploring the same ideas in a different way. And it's really clever because that makes the streaming series a thing of its own. Yes, strictly say, I do imagine watching, just having seen the cast and heard about it, you would watch it going, how the fuck have I not heard of this? Yeah. So, Gecko, a movie called Deceit. That sounds vaguely familiar. Apparently, there's a new TV series. Wow, apparently, there were a whole bunch of movies with that name. Okay, there's a British TV show. Yes, okay. It's a TV movie in 2006. Who's in the film that you want to see? Because there's like so many different things with the names Deceit. $1990. Well, there's no one immediately coming up with 1990. Here it is. Minimalist science fiction film. Aliens visit Earth with the intent of blowing it up, but they meet a hot blonde and decide to postpone the planet's destruction in order to try to score with her. Okay. Sounds classy. Good Lord. Oh, Discord. Yeah, okay. I will put the Discord link. Just give me a secundo. Alrighty, righty-roo. Let's go. Link, that is my Discord. Where we do share things. Okay. Nice. Gecko straight in there. Alrighty. Alrighty, righty-roo. So that's so we're in. This seems like a TV and movies night. Oh, that's actually okay. I'm not even going to say out loud what that was, but it's a link. Hey, Heine. Hey, Svan. How's it going? There you go. If you really want to see it, you can see it. It sounds like a classy movie, is all I'm going to say. Aliens want to destroy the Earth, but then they decide they want to bang a hot blonde more. Hollywood, always classy. Oh God, it's fun coming up with your 13th boss. Good Lord. I mean, I've had that many bosses, but that's just because I changed jobs a lot. Although I'm doing it less now. But in fact, intending to not do it anymore. But who the fuck knows what the future's going to bring? And I mean, working for the public service, opportunities always come about to jump jobs and do different things. I'm not in any rush to do that. I'm just going to chill in my job for a while, but anything could happen. Okay, see, 13 bosses in 5.5 years. Not great. Lee, to paraphrase some famous people, Ringo Starr wasn't even the best drummer in the Beatles. I think that was John Lennon. I know it was an interview with Paul McCartney and John Lennon were there. And they were taking the mickey. They were taking the mickey. Yes, Gecko, I assume that link Strictly Sega gave is more or less permanent. Which did Ringo Starr say of himself? Not even the best drummer in the Beatles, or the greatest? It was Ringo himself said that. Okay, I'm just going to look that up. Testimony, not even the best drummer in the Beatles. That auto completed. What does Snopes say? Misattributed? Proponents of the latter viewpoint quoted John Lennon as saying it. It's unlikely he would have said such a thing and meant it seriously. So, okay, Snopes is basically saying nobody said it. Okay, that's really interesting. It's an urban legend. Okay, this is like so bad. I thought I'd seen a bit of video of it. But Snopes is saying no one's ever been able to produce an audio recording or a video recording of anyone saying it. But it's been very popularly assumed that it was said. And I might just double check just in case, I don't want to suggest Snopes is the be all and end all of the world. Okay, here's something. Did John Lennon actually say it? Some Beatlesologists claim that they don't think he would have done it. Everyone loved Ringo. For a long time, some Beatles experts claimed the joke was actually coined by comedian Jasper Carrott around 1983. So there's an old Radio 4 comedy series called Radioactive. Someone dug it up. The episode itself, 6th October 1981. So never said by John Lennon. Jasper Carrott's office claimed he did it. Proof is that they've got a recording. It was on the BBC comedy Radioactive, October 1981. Voiced by Philip Pope, written by Jeffrey Perkins, not by John Lennon. Look, we all learned something tonight. Yeah, you're having a Mandela effect. Unless he was just... What era do you believe that was in when you saw it? I think they did say bigger than Jesus. Pete Best wasn't replaced by Ringo. Pete Best was a temporary replacement for Ringo. He was only ever in the band temporarily. And he was probably depressed to leave after being with the Beatles for a while. So that's why your bosses keep going, poor leadership. Good Lord. Yeah, I have worked in multiple banks over the years. Not my favorite environments. To be fair, very close to my least favorite. Why? Okay. Now, okay. You're saying I've never heard that Lennon's assassin blamed the bigger than Jesus thing. Okay. Yeah. Jesus. I'm sure they actually said. Yeah, March 1966. So I've never heard Chapman blame the assassination on bigger than Jesus. If he did, he took a long time to do it, like 14 years. But yes, so we can comfortably say the bigger than Jesus line is real. Lennon did say that, which I remember, I've seen the footage, did get evangelical Christians in the US having burnings of Beatles records, which is quite freaky to see. 60s uptight teenagers throwing Beatles records on a bonfire. Yes, Strictly Sega. The thing I was seeing said that he did say it in a magazine interview. So it's a whole thing. But I feel good that we learned something tonight, that none of the Beatles said the line, Ringo's not even the best drummer in the Beatles. Very interesting. Right. No, I'm just being real like I'm going to have. Ugh. I'm going to have a different bottled cocktail and maybe chill out. So I still want to watch that Beatles doco that Peter Jackson put together. So I've heard good things about that, so I want to check that out. There was an interesting but not great film. God, it was probably about 20 years ago. It's called Backbeat. It was actually focusing on the very little known fifth Beatle, Stuart Sutcliffe. Before they were famous, there was a fifth member in the band, Stuart Sutcliffe, who couldn't decide if he wanted to be in a band or be an artist. And he did leave the Beatles, and I think he died quite young. It's fun. Disco never died? What are you saying? I can imagine American Christian conservatives not liking disco for two reasons. Very heavily populated with black people, and very sexual music as well. So Strictly Sega, you remember Swap Meet when you're 15. MP3s, brand new. Got a complete Beatles CD. Oh, yes. Turn the quality of the MP3s down to mono. Well, yeah. And again, because the recording technology used by the Beatles, particularly the early albums, pretty basic compared to modern recording techniques. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Megaleech made chung, which is similar to oleo sacrum. One lemon, one orange. Choose a spirit to spare with them and some FIFA tree. Okay, so it's a syrup, is it? I would absolutely go gin. Absolutely. Gin and a citrus syrup and fever tree tonic. That would be the winning combo. Trump, Lee. You don't want to have strong emotions about Trump because you're playing into his hands. Yeah, I mean, I'd go with what you've got that you like, basically. Different gins would give you a different experience. You know, you could go a dry gin, and that would be very elegant. But if you had a citrusy gin, I think that would work as well. Basically, yeah, I think just a gin that you like, really. And I also think there's a big difference between Trump saying that he's going to run for president and then actually declaring and actually being in the Republican primaries. It's extremely hard to tell with Trump what he's going to do because he's a liar and a charlatan, a con artist. Oh, okay. So you're going to go to see what gins you can get in the bottle shop. Feel free to message me when you know what the options are. But I mean, there is. You might have local Tasmanian gins. There are some really good Tasmanian gins. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of anything Australian because, yeah, I just think they're um, broadly better than the big name international brands. Because not to completely disparage the big name international brands, but they're appealing to a large mainstream audience, so they have to have a comparatively safe, predictable flavor that they can replicate. Independent independent Australian distillers get to be really experimental and flamboyant. Yeah, Megalich, there are a few good Tassie gins. So yeah, it completely depends what's available at the bottle-o, and of course the prices. You want to balance that as well. Wow, that's a beast. Like me forgetting, what did I make in those cocktails? It's like that is bold flavor. I like it. Dr. Abigail's been researching. According to a book published in '92 by Jack Jones, Chapman attributes many anti-religious marks, lyrics by Lennon, "Bigger Than Jesus," and "Song God," where he doesn't believe in the Beatles, God, or Jesus. Imagine where he ruminates no religion. Okay, I'm not exactly sure what you're saying, or if that we're still halfway through a sentence. Is there like a full stop? According to a book published by Jack Jones. Who's Chapman in that case? Oh, right. Sorry, we're talking. Sorry, you just jumped right in with that. Okay. Well, all I'm going to say is, again, I tend to not uh, uh, put much faith in anything murderers say, because it's usually self-aggrandizing or self-justifying, and often has no real basis in reality. And again, but I say that again, I tend to not really read much about killers, because I just feel like it's playing into their hands to a degree. So the fact that I never heard any references to Chapman saying it was about anti Lennon being anti-religious doesn't mean that he never said it, and I guess doesn't mean it's not true. So yes, Lennon and Yoko wrote "Imagine" and had a sleep in a hotel room to protest, I don't know, inequity or something, while someone from a third world country cleaned the room around them while they talked to the media. Well, yes, because Dr. Abigail has duck art, which is very exciting too. All right, I'm just going to go. What are the theories? Why did Chapman? That auto completed. Why did Chapman shoot Lennon? All right. So he was angry and jealous at the way the Beatle was living and seeking glory for himself. At the time, I think he has all this money. His music represents a more giving lifestyle. It made me angry and jealous. There was jealousy in there. Then Chapman says it was about self-glory, nothing more than that. There's no excuses. So he says the main reason he shot. Okay, that report is the main reason he did it was just so he'd be known. So, yes, here's another report that is repeating the anti-religious stuff. More recently, he said he was famous. I didn't kill him because of his character or the kind of man he was. He was a family man. He was an icon. I assassinated him because he was famous and I wanted self-glory. So he had apparently claimed the anti-religion thing in the past and subsequently said, yes, that was self-aggrandizing bullshit. But again, which also goes back to the thing I said about why I don't usually pay much attention to anything murderers say, because they talk shit. Zvan, well, the Beatles did do their whole go to India and go to an ashram and get stoned and stuff. Whether it was directly inspired by Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan, I'm not sure. So Dr. Abigail, I think, is going to show off the duck art. So I'll share the link so we can see ducks in space. We've seen Mimsy in space. We can see some ducks in space too. But this is fun looking this stuff up, actually. So yes, most recently, Mark Chapman has said any excuse he gave in the past for shooting Lennon was self-serving bullshit, and I did it because I'm a glory-seeking prick. He's very down on himself now. Hello, Dr. Abigail.
Now I've got Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band in my head.
Okay.
Thanks.
But I bet it's the Bee Gees' Peter Frampton version that you're thinking of.
I didn't know there was such a version.
Did you not know the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton did a version of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts? You've got to go on. There might be some Jolly Roger types, around Tortuga, who will tell you all about it.
Okay, I might see.
God. Oh yeah,
Tall Boy. Look at this glorious Tall Boy.
Tall Boy Doc.
Duke. How gorgeous is that with the mountains in the background?
It's beautiful.
That is stunning. I love it.
And that's you at the bottom.
That is me at the bottom.
There's that tiny little thing as we look at it, bottom left-hand corner. So that is Tall Boy Duke, because that's Abigail there.
Yeah. I love it. And look at those knees.
Yes,
the
Duke
cutest.
Knees.
And to continue with the space memes, ducks in space. I love this so much.
It is. It's so
their
beautiful.
Little helmet, isn't it? It's so good.
Have to pass on once more to young Taz chick. I don't know if she has her own online handle. That we love this art. It is so good.
I'm so in love with this art.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. It's amazing. And I can't wait to have it on my walls.
Yes. Well, yeah, I found a way to display mine without even using blue tack or anything, just using my fridge magnets to hold it up.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm pretty happy
Magnets? How do they work?
You beat me to it. I was literally about to say that.
I've been doing a lot of 3D printing, and
Nice.
I've been remixing something on printables.com because I printed it and it broke, so of course I'm remixing it in FreeCAD to a non-breakable version.
Nice.
And I've got this special filament that's flexible as well. It's called TPU, and
Yeah.
it's I'll show you. Like I printed this. It's a
Yeah.
roller,
Yeah.
and
And it's flexible.
bloop, bloop. Yeah,
Wild.
because I printed it in PLA, which is very inflexible.
Yeah.
And like it's meant for a ball bearing, right?
Right. Okay.
And it breaks when you put it on.
Right.
Like it just like cracked and broke. So I
Right.
thought I'm going to print it in TPU.
So it's
And it just like
flexible.
slides on. It's great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Shieldsy wants to put in an order for 5 foot of snow for Queensland. You can put the order in. I don't see it happening.
I don't see it getting there in time.
No.
Not the way Australia Post is operating lately. They are swamped.
Yeah.
Ever since Australia Post, the back end was privatized. Oh, sorry, the front end was privatized. The back end is still all government run, but the front end was all privatized and turned into $2 shops, and they're just all swamped now because it's all gone to shit. Because that's what happens when you privatize something.
Yeah. All the
shit.
energy, utilities, and phone. I would be okay with a government-run telco if you just stop them doing the ridiculous bullshit that telecom did back in the days, like just ridiculously overcharging you for phone lines and the last big scam, I remember them when fax machines became popular. They said you had to have a purpose-built line put in because it was a whole different thing, and we need to put special wires in. And they were just fucking lying. They were just lying.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't let
Oh
anyone else. There wasn't like an agreement on the numbers on a phone. You know, like one is ABC. They said we own that. We own the trademark on that. You third party can't make a phone and equate the same letters with the numbers. So businesses couldn't use word mnemonics for getting people to remember the number. Telecom, which became Telstra, pulled a whole bunch of bullshit. They did some good things, like working with the government to force compatibility of the mobile network. Because in other parts of the world, America notably, the early the analog mobile system, you couldn't call people from different phone companies.
Of
So
course.
they forced compatibility in Australia, which is the way to go. But yes, if you could just stop them doing the worst things. Oh, I think Pat wants to join us. Sorry, how are you going, mate?
All right.
All right. I'm sorry. I
He's
just wasn't putting you
smiling.
on because I wanted the the duck art first. So
okay.
yeah. Oh yeah, and the NBN. That was the failure of the NBN. I put down to two things: Stephen Conroy, the Labor Minister, being an arrogant prick and pissing off Telstra, and then Telstra being pissy little shitheads and deliberately sabotaging the rollout because they didn't like the government's plan, which meant that when Labor lost office, the NBN wasn't sufficiently deployed and the LNP could destroy it on behalf of Rupert Murdoch, who wanted them to destroy it. And if Stephen Conroy hadn't been so high-handed and alienated Telstra, we may have had the proper NBN, because it was a good plan, and we may have had the proper NBN sufficiently rolled out before Labor lost power that the LNP couldn't sabotage it. But we didn't. And so we went from having very good internet to progressively every year falling further and further down the list of the world's quality internet. You know what I mean? Countries that have the best internet, every year we're further down the list. We fall further and further behind other countries every year. And that's down to the LNP because they fucking suck. Even when it got to the point where they realized it was an extraordinarily bad economic, political, and tactical move to have destroyed the NBN, they still didn't fucking resurrect it. But it's just redonkulous. Oh no! Svan built a PC for his brother. Got shaken to death by Australia Post. Oh no!
It worked for a year, but RGB got unplugged, and the APS. What does that stand for? Like electroplasma system?
Power system? I don't know.
Yeah, like 12.
It sounds very Star Trek.
12 volt got. Yeah, like
Weird.
The 12 volt got disconnected. That doesn't make much sense. Like, is it like a power supply issue? Like, I'm curious for what actually happened there.
And hello, I Cry Havoc. How you doing? Doing fine.
Hello?
Did you? I Cry Havoc. I have a question.
Yeah.
Did you let slip the dogs of war?
Yes. That was careful.
Oh, okay. CPU core voltage.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Sure.
So, Shieldsy, you should probably get satellite internet, I think. All right. Zvan, you going to explain the PC thing to us?
Yes,
Yeah,
please
so
do.
So APS is that CPU connector. So it's either that 8-pin or the 4-pin that you plug in.
Oh, okay.
And it supplies 12 volt current or voltage
Sure.
for your CPU core or V core.
Okay.
So that's
Sure.
that's where it comes from.
Oh, so it just got disconnected, and you plugged it back in.
Yeah, well, I had to get because I tried to diagnose it with my brother and remote diagnostics, trying to get someone to where they know nothing about computers.
Yeah, really I feel your pain.
It's just like,
yep.
Just take it down to your local.
I bought this today on yesterday.
Oh, we got a new controller, sexy red one.
Yeah,
Nice.
red and black.
Looking very cool.
Yeah.
Looks fantastic.
So you fixed it?
Yes, it got fixed for $50.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes shipping that can happen. That's the first thing that you tend to look for. But it shouldn't happen in the first place.
As well.
Sorry?
It pulled out the RGB cables as well. But I put proper sort of packing material inside the case. You know that foam expanding BS stuff? I put that in there and yeah.
Oh, okay.
Didn't help.
On the PC front, it says, thanking Dr. Abigail recently a message.
Yeah.
After the upgrades we did to my PC, I don't have the editing problems I used to have, which were driving me stark raving bonkers. Just silly things where the audio would slip out of sync with the video for no reason and it couldn't be fixed. And but now I've been doing all these ones and I've been doing green screening stuff that's processor intensive and it does it and I'm not having the problems and I dance a little. It's funny because I've had it for a while, the upgrades, and I just kind of realized in the last week, hey, I don't have any of the problems anymore. Yay!
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Done. Here we go.
Yeah. Oh god.
You're welcome.
Now we're sharing horror stories. Megaleech had a PC ship. The hard drive had moved, dislodged, was resting on the video card. among other problems. Yeah, well,
Oh,
that seems less
damn.
than perfect.
That's less than ideal.
Yeah, I saw my brother.
Yeah,
You know, my old Freya. And there
yeah.
I saw my brother.
Sorry, what was your brother doing?
I let him sit down.
Okay.
Yeah, what's up? Hey, brother.
Okay, he's just
that?
bothering you now. I get it. Okay,
Yeah,
fair enough.
you know that.
That's fair. Sorry,
So-
Safa, the LNP just fucked the NBN, and they're liars and scumbags, and I hate them. Sorry, it's fine.
Yeah, we were talking about Stephen Conroy. We
Yeah.
can move on to the Liberal National Party later down the track.
Yeah,
I had been following
Hmm?
the whole NBN sort of policy and the politics behind it and that sort of stuff because
Yeah.
I originally did a degree in network engineering
yeah,
during the same time. And yes, do you remember when Stephen Conroy wanted to build a firewall to protect us from child pornography? And
yes, which showed a distinct lack of understanding. Yeah,
of how the internet works and that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, and it's just like, yeah, sure, let's have an identical policy to China for
Yeah.
yeah. Firewalling
yeah,
our internet.
yes. It's just a gross bit of censorship and government overreach. And it's the whole thing. You say, like, well, you want to stop the child porn, don't you? Yes, obviously. Will your policy do that? No, it will just fuck the internet up.
It was so at the time it would have slowed it down.
Pretty
and-
sure he was aware of that.
Oopsie.
Oh, absolutely. And he was a complete and utter asshole about it. So when journalists were actually interviewing him and that sort of stuff, it was like, what? So you support child pornography? Was his immediate response. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
fuck off.
Yeah.
He actually retired from politics because
He did.
people hated him so
Yes.
much that he retired from politics, and it was because he didn't want to get catcalled or abused in the street with his children.
Yeah, I would no longer recognize him if I bumped into him on the street. So he made a good call there.
Well, I'm still bitter. I'd still call him a piece of shit. But he's now popping up on Sky News all the fucking
Oh, good
time.
lord, really?
God.
As a sort of Labour spectator, and I'm just like, could you have just sort of kept, not being involved in politics? Just fuck off. Yeah.
Sorry, now I'm just looking up to see if he's been on. If I can see a picture of him on. There he is. Yep. No, he's currently on Sky News. They're quoting him just a day ago.
Holy shit, he's still there. Fuck.
Okay, I'm not watching a video. I am not watching a video of Sky News. No way.
Don't
No. No.
It,
goddamn. Although the thing about like, oh, so you like child porn? I do that sometimes on people when they say that stupid line about when they go something about, oh, Twitter stomps free speech. Or my personal favorite is when they go like, oh, you shouldn't lose friends over politics. You should be able to believe what you want to believe. And I always just go, that is a very brave pro-pedophile stance you've taken just there. And you go, what? Well, you think someone should be able to actively spruik pedophilia as a good thing and not suffer any restrictions or public approbation. No, I don't. You just said people should be able to say anything. Well, not that. You go, oh, so you think there are some things people shouldn't say, but racism and homophobia and transphobia and sexism, you're fine with. We need to be clear. You're pro-racist and you're pro-homophobe. You just don't want to publicly say you're pro-pedophile. because they just make dumb absolutist statements, and it's like, you don't believe that at all. You're just being a fucking prick. But that's just me.
Anyway, that was my rant. I wanted to have a rant about Stephen Conroy.
Oh yeah, no, he sucks.
I thought he was a dickhead.
Yeah, no, yeah. The combined things, he's planned for an equivalent Great Firewall of China, and the way his arrogance stopped us from getting a proper NBN because he just alienated Telstra so much. Because he, out of the blue, when he made the decision, Telstra aren't going to build the NBN. They're going to let other companies use their infrastructure. And Telstra just went, oh, are we now? Okay, let's see how that works out. And they just did ghost loads on everything.
Telstra were like, oh, yes, we can rent our pits out that we've put under all the roads and charge you $55 million rent per year to run your NBN. Yeah.
And the end, Conroy started to claim he could push them to do X, Y, Z, and they were like, "Good luck. Let's see how that works out," and managed to screw up the entire process, which was aggravating because the concept of a government-funded national broadband network made so much sense economically. Like the boost to the economy would have been incredible, and it just would have made life so much better.
Especially during COVID.
Yeah. Politics just fucking sank it, which sucks. And no one gets to hold their head up on it. Neither Labor nor LNP get to hold their head up on the whole debacle.
And he also did bullshit like he was bragging about the fact that ACMA, the Australian what have you. Anyway, they sell out the radio frequencies like 4G and 3G and sort of stuff. And he was like bragging about it in America that he was basically getting all the telcos wearing their undies on their heads and that sort of stuff. And it was just like, why?
Again, he was more than a tad egotistical and alienated people that he really shouldn't have alienated.
Yeah, and he thinks people like me shouldn't go and abuse him across the street. Oh, just like, you've fucked up so many things, Stephen.
Hi, Liam. How are you doing? We're just having random angry rants about something that happened 15 years ago.
I'm sorry.
No, I agree. I do on the semi-regular go. Whenever Australia's shitty internet comes up, I just always go, oh man, I fucking hate Stephen Conroy. He fucked it up. Oh, yeah, see, Safa, even Turnbull went back on it because Turnbull knew when he was saying what Tony Abbott told him what to do. Ooh, what's that? Something
a failed print.
Yeah, it looks like something
tiny failed print. Yeah. I'm trying to. Okay, so I've got these bearings, and I've made 8mm holes.
Yeah.
Not realizing I don't have any M8 screws or bolts to put in. So I've got the biggest I've got are these M5 bolts, and they're metric 5mm diameter bolts.
Yeah.
So I'm printing these little bushings to convert, like to hold them in place, and it works a treat. They just slide in there.
Yeah.
And I just went to print another one, and
it went sprawling.
That was the result. And it went not going to stick to the bed, and just went everywhere. And it only takes like 6 minutes to print, but I wasn't watching.
I know. I see that, and I hear the comic sound effect spring when it's I know it didn't actually bounce out of the printer, but it looks like it did.
Yeah, well, it's more painful when it's on a 9-hour print than a 6-minute print.
Yes,
For
yes.
sure.
All those things.
Yeah.
Liam, why are you sad? I mean, there are many reasons in this world. Wondering what your particular one is. It's a whole thing. Oh my God. What did I watch on the weekend? I watched All Quiet on the Western Front, the new German version that's on Netflix. And by jings, didn't that make me lose any faith in humanity? It was just like, you just look at it and go, yeah, we're fucking garbage, aren't we? Humans will just do the worst stuff that makes no sense, is insane and barbaric, and we'll do it,
Just you feel so dead inside at the end, dead inside as that character.
Yeah.
Just over the top.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's
whatever.
And I mean, I always remember the line from the 4th series of Blackadder, which was set in World War One, but where he just said, "Oh yes, this whole affair would have been so much simpler if we just stayed at home and slaughtered 20,000 of our young men every week." And
jeez.
And it was, again, it just this new adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front does a great job of just going, yeah, this is shit, man. This is bad. And it just really piles. It's bad all the way through, and it just piles on at the end. Like, I was watching some bits and going like, oh yeah, that's the good guys right there. And Jesus, you're just looking at it going, oh my fucking God. Absolutely so depressing. Like, incredibly well-made movie, depressing as fuck. And you just think about all the things that humans have done, like with wars and whatnot, and it's just like, yeah, people get sucked into this shit. They think it's a big adventure, and and then it's just a horrible meat grinder, and it's just an absolute friggin' nightmare. And we keep doing it, and fuck. Okay, yes, now I'm going to stop. Because I got depressed, so I wanted you all to get depressed for a while too. Now I need to watch some very silly light comedy to wash away the hideous. Actually, see, that's the thing. The Last of Us, which is very dark and unsettling, is not as fucking depressing as All Quiet on the Western Front.
So I've played the games, but I haven't watched the show yet.
Yeah.
I haven't played the games.
Yeah.
I should play the games. But I'm currently playing a game called Rogue AI Simulator.
Oh, okay.
Which is a roguelite kind of base kind of very basic base builder / like colony simulator with roguelite elements.
Okay.
Where you get to play an AI, and it's got multiple endings every run through, and your aim is to take over the world, of course.
Yeah.
And I've done it once.
Oh, nice. Took over the world.
The ending I got was I destroyed every data center in the world and brought humanity back to the Dark Ages.
Which,
you brought them back to reality, Abigail. Data centers. I can tell you that right now.
I started playing Disco Elysium, which was at least for a while banned in Australia because of rampant drug use in the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Australian censors are really
It's another Stephen Conroy thing. He introduced the R18 bullshit for video games, and actually made it harder for video games to actually get across the line in terms of ratings.
It's weird. how obsessed Australian censors are with drug use in games, but
because I remember working for the Death Star, which is News Corp at the time, and I was talking with a journalist at the time, and I was like, look, what Stephen Conroy's actually proposed for the new R18 rules. And they were, because originally the MA15 plus rating for the games, for games were the same for movies.
Yes.
But for video games, they introduced all these extra requirements regarding sex, drugs, violence, and that sort of bullshit. And
the aversion to sex in video games is incredibly weird to me. And again, the refusal to acknowledge, what's the average gamer's age is over 25 these days, and it's like, make it so only someone over 18 can get the game. Oh, but kids will still get it. Kids still get porn as well. I mean, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Disco Elysium was banned at least. It's possibly still banned, and I just got it because I got it off Steam because it was really cheap. But it's funny. It opens, your character's such a degenerate. He wakes up mostly unclothed from an obvious binge, and he literally doesn't remember who or what he is. And you've just got to kind of stumble around, try and find your clothes, and then go and talk to people and try and work out who the fuck you are and what the fuck you're doing.
I'm getting serious Fallout 1 and 2 vibes.
Yeah, I haven't played Fallout, so I don't know. Yeah.
Fallout 1 and 2 were isometric top-down 2D games.
That's what it looks like.
With the same opening.
Yeah.
You crawl out of the vault with basically nothing but a perky attitude, and you get rolled.
Yeah,
pretty soon.
Yeah. So for example, that new R18 category.
Yes.
Left 4 Dead 2 got banned.
Yes.
Too much disembowelment and that sort of stuff.
Oh, and they were obviously doing drugs. They were obviously using amphetamines to recover.
And another game that got banned was DayZ.
Right.
And it had marijuana assets. It wasn't even in the game.
Yeah. Oh God. So what
and so it got banned just because there was the potential of drug use within the game.
I kickstarted a game called Basement, which is literally a drug dealing strategy game. It's made in an Eastern Bloc country. I don't remember which one. But it's literally making drugs in your basement, base building strategy game, and selling those drugs to kids, and it's not banned. So I don't know what the hell's going on there.
Oh, it's got to do with what profile you have as well.
Okay. Well, it's on Steam.
Yeah.
And it is available. So
okay. So it was banned in Australia, but the ban got overturned. What I love about Disco, I've only played a very little bit of it. Like, you wake up, you're saying you come out of Fallout with a perky attitude. You come out on Disco Elysium with a fucked attitude, and and even the bit you're talking to elements of your psyche all the time. Like, it's dialogue heavy, and you're making dialogue decisions, but it's like bits of your psyche talking to you. And at one point, you look in a mirror, and I think there's a bit where you attempt to smile, and because you just got this big bloated alcoholic's face. And you just do this terrible grimace into a mirror, and then it's like, oh God, now your face is stuck like that. That's what you're going to look like.
Yike.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Safa's got a friend with the banned version of GTA San Andreas with the sex bits in it. What was the PC mod? It was called Hot Coffee or something. Because even the unbanned version, it has hints of your protagonist gets lucky. Although he does, when he it's left to your imagination. But when he gets involved with a rather volatile Italian woman from like a crime family, she's clearly doing him with a strap on at one point. You don't see anything, but you just from her demeanor, and then he's going, oh my God, oh.
Yeah, I remember the Hot Coffee mod BS, and it was basically they had already sort of like printed the DVDs, or CDs for the video game, and so the content was there, and you used the Hot Coffee mod to actually re-enable the content that they originally wanted to censor out.
Yeah, they had coded it, and then they released it without that. But if you, particularly on PC, you could get a mod that unlocked the, and it was like, it's such low res graphics in San Andreas. It's just like some weird angular pixels bumping up against each other. It's
well, GTA 3 was actually censored in Australia as well. Like I remember having to go into Windows and changing what country I was in.
Right.
Unlock the prostitution bit of the game.
Right. Yes. All right.
Like
well,
it was very easy to do.
Yeah. Sorry, I always also wanted to answer Megalich, who's asking about the Splendid Gin, which I have never heard of. I'm just looking it up. Yes, I'm over 18. See, you need Kirsten here for this because she's probably heard of them. Oh yeah, they're a Tassie distiller. I mean, distilling in Tasmania is pretty gosh darn good. So it's it's probably good. I know I don't know the Tasmanian brands that well. I know the people who make Lark whiskey make 40 Spotted, which is named after a particular sort of bird, apparently. Very weird name for a gin, 40 Spotted gin. Like, what the fuck is that? It's named after some bird unique to the area where their distillery is, I think. They have these kind of annoying bottles. I used to have one, and annoy me because it's this big, weird lid. It's normal stuff. So it's actually designed, the lid's got this big flat base, so you actually sit the gin bottle upside down on this base. But what I experienced one time, because the lid was busted, I screwed it on and it cracked. So then it always leaked if you put it that way. But anyway, the big cat.
That's cool.
Long boy cat.
Long boy.
That's a big cat.
It's a very big cat.
He is.
He's got long.
Oh. He doesn't like being picked up.
Okay. Sorry. I also looked up the reason for Disco Elysium's ban and for the overturn. The initial ban was Disco Elysium's apparent promotion of drug use for short-term benefits. And when it was, the publishers went to the review board, they said the long-term consequences of drug use in the game are bad, and there's also no explicit depiction of drug taking, so they overturned the ban.
Okay. Drugs are bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
How
yeah,
about
again,
we just have the same standards for movies, music?
Yeah.
Along with video games.
Because, okay, there is, again, what old squares say, but there's maybe a tiny bit of truth in it. The immersive nature of an interactive game, hacking someone into small pieces and pissing on their corpse because of your actions is a bit different to watching a movie where someone hacks something up and pisses on them.
Potato.
I don't really go with it myself. I feel like there's a little element of, particularly there. I think there can be a troubling aspect with younger players if they do gratuitously sadistic things in a game. It might mess with the head a bit, but fucking adults are going to adult, man.
So yeah, when you're 18, I would sort of think that you're capable of sort of dichotomizing what's actually happening on the screen and what you're doing, and reality.
And I would also argue an adult that can't tell the difference doesn't need a video game to get into a fucked up mode of behavior. I remember an old sci-fi series I read, written by a guy called Alan Dean Foster. There was one bit, the protagonist was a teenager.
Is this Ender's Game?
No. That's Orson Scott Card, the weird woman.
Okay, yep.
Alan Dean Foster wrote a bunch of Star Wars novelizations as well.
Oh, okay.
But he has this really good sequence with the protagonist Flinks of the Commonwealth, where he has this pet that's like this little miniature dragon, which he calls a mini drag, which spits a corrosive poison at anyone it doesn't like, which is pretty cool. But in one thing, he's working in a bar on a planet, and they have something in this bar on this planet that measures your ability to handle the alcohol they serve. So it's not based on your age or anything. There's something like, this machine does a reading. And so sometimes someone like Flinks, who's under 18, will be allowed to buy some alcohol because the machine says you're capable of handling it. And sometimes adult off-worlders will come in and they'll run the machine on them and go, no, you're a fucking weirdo. You can't have any of our booze. Get out.
Body mass index or something along those lines.
Which is a fun concept. There's obviously no explanation as to how a machine knows someone can't handle the alcohol. But yes, that would be the ultimate thing. And whenever you want to put some separation of, these people can't make good decisions. Young people can't make good decisions. So we say there's certain things they just can't do. And there's certain things adults can't do to or with them because they can't make good decisions. You could, like with things with alcohol and drugs and violent video games, you could make a thing and go, well, here's a kid who can handle it. Go, but we can't make case-by-case judgments. We just have to put an arbitrary line because you just can't. We don't have the resources to make case-by-case judgments. And also that sort of thing is almost invariably perverted by really unpleasant adults who want to do terrible things.
Have you ever? Sorry, I was about to change the subject.
Yes, let's do it.
Have you ever tried aviation gin? Ryan Reynolds.
I have tasted it. Yes, Ryan Reynolds' gin. It's probably, for my tastes, better than things like Gordon's or Tanqueray or whatnot. But again, it's the thing, they make millions of bottles of that a year, so it constrains what they can do with it, in my opinion.
Okay, that's fair.
It's okay, but I'd never buy it. And that's the weird thing with me. Gin is the one thing. It's like, look, it is perfectly possible someone somewhere else in the world makes a gin that competes with Australian independent gin makers, but I can't be fucked seeking it out, and I'll just support local.
Because the local gins are spectacularly good.
They're just incredible. They're so good. Look, if someone is on a budget, I understand. Gordon's costs considerably less than some of the gins I buy, and I get that. But like whiskeys are a bit different. Like I have one Scotch and one bourbon and one Irish. Rums are all.
I thought you were about to say one beer then.
Yes. Rums are a bit different. I have besides Australian rums, I have a couple of rums from different areas of the Caribbean and South America.
I ain't got a little drunk.
I'm not a drunk. I'm a connoisseur.
Yeah, dude, I saw you on Sunday.
What?
Dude.
No, that was someone else. Sorry.
No, I saw you the blue
The absinthe. My absinthe one. Look, just because I'm making drinks with 80% alcohol by volume absinthe doesn't mean I'm a drunk. I mean, maybe it does.
It might mean
he's an
you
alcoholic.
it might mean you are drunk, but it doesn't mean you are a drunk.
Yeah.
My dad saw you. That.
Your dad think it's funny that I'm drinking these blue drinks?
Yeah. So your YouTube that.
Yeah. I actually had because for anyone who missed it, Megaleech actually suggested there's this guy who's quite big on TikTok and pretty big on YouTube as well.
I know TikTok.
And he does this thing where he puts some food product and some alcohol in a jar for a week and sees what it tastes like. And most of them are terrible. And some of them are obviously preordained to be terrible. Like he knows they're going to be terrible when he does them. But he did this thing with tinned peaches and absinthe. And he tasted it. And then he's like, mind blown, this is the best thing I think he thought this is going to be terrible. And then it was like, best thing I've ever made. So Megaleech suggested I try it. So I did. And I did think the peach absinthe was pretty good, but then I made a cocktail with it. And the cocktail I made with it was extremely good. I didn't rate that. Sorry, yeah.
I have two questions. Firstly, did you like my cocktail name suggestion?
Well, it actually wasn't for me. It was for someone else.
Oh, okay.
Like someone's going, I've got to do this thing and I'm bad with naming cocktails. I said, I've got a friend who has this weird ability to come up with good cocktail names. He's in North America, so he's in a different time zone. So he's not awake there. So Secondly,
I have a friend who just mixed together some ingredients and liked the result.
Yes.
And here's what it was: like two or three blackberries, one or two strawberries, lemon juice, sugar syrup, one or two shots of whiskey, a dash or two of bitters, and topped with soda water.
Yeah, that's a smash. Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, that's a fairly traditional drink actually. Some fruit with whiskey. It's a whiskey sour with some fruit in it, and then with some soda.
Okay,
that's actually a fairly traditional drink.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fair
so
enough.
They lucked into a good combo.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. So
cool. I'll let her know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's.
She totally lucked into it.
Yeah.
She left the fruit in, and
just eat the fruit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, have you ever tried drinking an aged tequila? Let's say it's oak barreled aged.
Yeah, añejo.
Dipping ginger nuts, biscuits into it, and then eating them.
I can quite conclusively say I have not dipped ginger nuts in any alcohol. I'm a bit stuck that this is a binge after this question, but
my son has red hair.
It's something that I've discovered, and it's awesome to do.
Cool.
So try it one day.
My son has red hair, you know.
And make sure it's really peppery, and then just dip ginger nut biscuits into it.
Dip your ginger nuts.
My work has red hair.
Yes.
Red hair. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried is really being said here, Pat. But you know, no, I am not big on dipping anything into alcohol, really, but I'll keep it in mind.
Dipping any nuts?
Yeah, and I'm not that fond of ginger nut cookies either. But you
need to try it once.
All right, I'll keep that in the back of my mind. If I'm ever around, if I get a hold of some ginger nuts, I'll potentially give it a go. Yes, Megaleech, I agree. That's like going into after party territory there. So,
I fucking love this caliper.
there you
I
go.
ditched my digital caliper because the batteries ran out. I fucking love this thing. Old school. Just never fails me. Just
Nice.
getting a dial on things. I fucking love it. Just saying.
Oh yeah, Safi, you got refused alcohol because you look really young anyway, and you're just turned 18, and you've got an ID that looks vaguely dodgy. Yeah, bouncers have a tendency to be a bit overly cautious on things. And hi, Justin, by the way. We're just talking about dipping ginger nuts at the moment, so you've come in at an opportune moment.
I'm blonde. I'm not ginger.
It's hard to tell on a low-res webcam. So,
but I can actually understand bouncers turning people away just randomly.
They can just be dicks. Yeah.
Sometimes you're not up to like dress code. Sometimes you just look young. Sometimes you just look like you're going to be trouble. Sometimes they're just being dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can be kind of arbitrary sometimes.
It's their right to make sure who comes and goes from the establishment.
Well, yeah.
So just respect that.
They do actually have a responsibility, because if they didn't police who was allowed in, and there are a whole bunch of reasons. It's if people are actually underage, if people are actually drunk before they even get to the venue. There are
pre-drinks though happen, yeah.
There are actually licensing restrictions that the venue can lose their license if the bouncer doesn't actually restrict people who should be restricted. So
my biggest problem with bouncers, and this is actually not on the bouncers, is the fact that they take a picture of your
that's a club thing.
A picture of you.
Yeah,
it's so fucked.
They shouldn't be doing that, or
I don't know why they do it.
Information correctly.
Yeah.
I don't know why they do that. I have no idea.
There have been documented cases of that being used to stalk people. So, I would lean to. Well, I'm not a club person. I am old. I'm not doing that. But I would lean to, if someone started saying,
"Oh man,
yeah." If they wanted to photograph my driver's license, I would lean very strongly to, I think I'll just go somewhere else. Because I don't trust you motherfuckers.
It's usually like sports bars and shit that do that.
Yeah. It's a whole thing with, you're at risk of identity theft, because this will be a shock to some people, but occasionally some people who work in some venues aren't trustworthy. It's like the joke, everyone being worried about, is my credit card going to get stolen on the internet? The amount of times people, like just in restaurants or cafes, just give their credit card to someone who then walks away with it. And there were, it's less so now because they all have the wireless FPOS readers. But back in the day, you used to just give it to someone who walked off with it because the FPOS reader was attached to a phone line.
So credit card swiping.
There've been a few cases of venues, and they're absolute fucking morons to think they weren't going to get caught. 10 people report fraudulent charges on their credit card, and the banks go, is there any commonality to these accounts? Oh, they all went to the same venue. I wonder if that's where their card got skimmed. And it's just like,
Yes.
the guys who got busted doing that, it's like, you're a fucking moron. You're going to jail for being a moron, not for being a credit card thief. Because it's just like, the perfect plan. They'll never know it was me. And it's just like, they will know it was you. You clown.
Yeah, so that didn't significantly actually affect Australia because we moved on to the chip system as well as the NFC touch and go.
Yeah.
And it rekeys it as part of the acquiring process.
Yeah.
It gets new encryption keys.
Yeah. And
every transaction.
I mean,
so that magnetic swipe sort of steal credit card information.
Yeah.
That was only around in the early 2000s, and it was outside of Australia, particularly America and that sort of shit, where their banking system's fucked.
Yeah. But we adopted every level of credit card technology more rapidly than just about anywhere in the world. Like, we had bank cards in the 70s where paying by card was a comparative rarity in most places in the world. I got my first ATM card early 80s, and in America in particular, you watch these things from relatively recently in the US, and there are people in supermarkets paying for their shopping with checks, and you're going, what the fuck is that? Who does that? That's weird.
So FPOS was an Australian New Zealand thing, and New Zealand actually picked it up faster than Australia, but it was within a year or so. But New Zealanders were doing all their sort of shopping and that sort of stuff using FPOS.
Yeah. And America particularly, and large amounts of Europe, lagged a long way behind us. And as you said, we did the chip thing way faster than a lot of other places did. Oh yeah, Kazumi. Yeah, now it's extremely rare for people to do checks in the US. But seriously, we'd see stuff in the 90s and noughties and whatnot of people doing it. And that's insane. No one paid for shit by check in Australia since the 70s. It just like, in fact, only businesses after about the 70s, only businesses paid by check, and that was for like large transactions where you didn't want to hand over a huge thing of cash. Checks were a business thing in Australia. Individual people stopped using checks in Australia in the fucking 70s. We were either card or cash. Unless
you were dodgy. I knew a guy who was a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
And he had the best name. Like this was his actual given name. Yeah. His name was David Smith. Yeah. Like two of the most common names for a white dude ever. So he was destined to either be an accountant or a mortgage broker, I guess. But he used to inflate people's bank accounts by writing them a check and then getting them to cash the check and then cancelling it straight away. And it would take 3 days to cancel the account. But then he'd get them to do like a statement as showing the amount in the account straight up. So it was dodgy as fuck.
So that's credit related. So basically credit ability to take out loans.
The old systems were very, very technically the way checks worked, although they were usually printed. If you wrote on anything like, I, Angry Aussie, commit to paying $500 and I sign this, that was a legal check. It was like you just had to write, this is me, I commit to paying this much money from my bank account. And that was a legal check. there's questions as to would anyone accept it, but the way a check was defined under law, it didn't have to be one of the things printed out by the bank. You could just write on a thing, "This is me, and I'm going to pay it."
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, sorry,
Stuffy,
you asked me before about bank cards. Credit card, bank cards, yeah, that was definitely around in the 70s. ATMs were probably early 80s. I know I had an ATM card. It was with Westpac, and it was probably about 80. It was either 82 or 83. And I went to the show, the Dubbo show, and Westpac had a stall, and they said, "You should sign up here and give us $5 to open an account, and then we'll sign up a thing, and then we'll send you in the mail, and you'll get a card, and it'll be cool." And so I did it, and so then I had a card, and it was a whole new thing. So I was about 16, and I had an ATM card, and I was about to say I had no income. I was working at McDonald's. I worked at McDonald's. And Jesus Christ, they paid you by cash. That was so weird. Back in this is another weird thing that people today get their minds blown. You used to get paid on payday. You'd rock up to the pay office and they would give you your pay in cash in an envelope. And it'd be written on the front, you work this many hours at this many dollars an hour, and this tax came out. So we're now giving you this money. And there'd be notes and coins.
Just crazy.
Well, an obvious target for robbers was places that had the entire payroll in cash. You'll see that as a device in movies. In fact, that was a fucking plot device in Andor, the heist they do in Andor.
Oh, yeah.
It was the Imperial pay thing. They had the 3 months worth of pay for the garrison in physical currency, and they were stealing it all in this heist.
Well, it was a long time ago, a long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away, I believe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
speaking of which, I went and saw Star Wars with the soundtrack played live by
the orchestra.
The MSO on Saturday.
How was that?
That was fun. Lots of fun. There were Jedi there. Sorry, I'm sitting on my cable. Ugh. There were Jedi. I took my lightsaber. That was fun.
Cool.
Took some pictures. Crowd cheered a lot. The orchestra liked it. Yeah, it was definitely different.
Okay.
And it was pretty cool actually.
So whereabouts was that, Abigail?
That was at the Melbourne Exhibition Centre, the plenary hall, and it was full. It was chockers.
All right. Bunch of nerds coming to see the orchestra version of Star Wars. Nice.
You're not allowed to call people nerds these days.
That's I am. It's like the Tim Minchin song, only a ginger can call a ginger a ginger.
Have you ever seen the movie Revenge of the Nerds?
That's things that did not age well. A central bit is when the hero sexually assaults someone, and that's because he's the hero and he does it. And it's like, oh no, that's a crime. What you just did was a crime.
Yeah. Yike.
I just want to respond to Safa's question about Visa and debit MasterCards in the 90s. So, yes, those credit cards used to exist. Do you remember those machines where you went...
Oh, the Chak ones where you got the physical inflection.
Yep.
Yeah. So they existed since the 70s.
Yeah, well, bank cards used them. It was... and that was, oh my God, how these them dose. Sorry. That's a Laurel and Hardy thing when someone's saying like they're in Spain and someone's saying something about dos pesos and he goes, what does dos mean? And he looks up and goes, let's say, I think it's in the book. What have we got? Dem dos. Oh, it means two. But yes, that the processing of finance was so slow back then because there were multiple copies when they did that check on the thing and there was a carbon copy. One was yours, and the store kept one, and one was sent to the bank, and then however many days later, that credit card impression got to the bank, and they processed it and debited it from your account and credited it to the store from whence you had bought. So stores, and in fact, there used to be a thing where they only did the I'm forgetting the right word, but they only did the balances once a month. So the store, when they're selling shit, they only get the money for what they did at the end of the month. So it could be a bit fraught working in finance. Yeah.
So Kizame's just mentioned the fact that new credit cards don't have embossing anymore for the actual numbers.
Not true. They do in Australia.
They do here, yeah.
No, Commonwealth Bank have stopped it.
Have they? Okay.
I literally just got new cards like about a month ago, and they do. So maybe it's per bank.
I've had it a little while. I've had it for 2 years, but my Commonwealth one's got the embossed numbers on it.
Oh well, Angry, can you show us some proof?
Yeah. Okay. There's my credit card. Yeah. Oh, why are you order?
You gotta show us the 3 numbers on the back as well, just in case.
Yeah. Also, what was my mother's maiden name? What street did I grow up on? And what was my first
your
pet's
first
name?
pet? Yeah.
So, Kazumi, Zvan backed you up. Some cards don't have the embossed numbers anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's just some banks not doing it. Maybe it's... I mean, there's no reason to do it anymore.
Yeah, no, they only existed for the check thing. And it's very unlikely that the transaction system goes down for a long time anymore. I mean, I've told this story before. When I were a lad, when I was at college in Bathurst, what turns out, which not many people knew, in fact, I don't think anyone outside of Telstra knew, every phone line out of Sydney was going out to the rest of the state was in one pipe, and there was an inspection thing in a nondescript paddock in Western Sydney, and there was a wooden shed. Had a padlock on the door where the pipe come out of the ground. It was an inspection point for the techs. One day, someone broke into this shed and got an orbital grinder and just cut through the entire thing. So they cut off every phone line from Sydney to the rest of Australia, or actually possibly just to Western New South Wales. I remember I was in Western New South Wales. So you couldn't... local phones still worked, and local phones in Sydney still worked, but you couldn't call Sydney, and Sydney couldn't call Western New South Wales. And also, this was electronic transactions in banks, which all went down the phone line. So for about a month, because this thing had thousands of individual little wires in it, someone had to go and solder each of them
patch them up, yeah.
Patch them one by one.
That still happens, Angry.
Yeah, but they have failovers now. I know from actually working on them, they have failovers if one line works, which will be slower, but it reroutes. If Sydney, Western New South Wales went down, it would reroute to Melbourne, then back up, so it'd be slow. But this stopped completely for about a month. All bank transactions were on paper again for about a month.
When was this?
Let me see, about 86, 87.
Okay. Sure. Because my dad once had a well-paying job working security at Telstra going out to each of the exchanges and doing security checks and auditing security there. And a lot of the rural exchanges, he'd just do a drive out and come back and order upgrades and manage that. So it was, it was in the 90s, I think. 80s or 90s, I'm not sure.
This happened in the late 80s, and so after they fixed it, then their first protocol was, how would we stop this happening again? What was hilarious, of course, they found out exactly who it was. It was just like, who knows that this is here? A very small number of people. Did you sack anyone who knows where this is recently? This one guy. It was just like super obvious who'd done it.
So back in the 80s, the internet didn't really exist, but you had lease lines. And so, most of our telecoms were running through non-redundant systems where you could actually break the lines quite easily and fuck up everything for the banks.
Sure could.
So we weren't running like redundant fiber optics across the country and that sort of shit back then.
Nope, we weren't. By Y2K we were, because I worked for Telstra for Y2K, and one of the things, they did a whole series of tests, disaster tests, and they were like, and it was just basically like, if this exchange from Sydney went down, what we do, everything gets rerouted to Melbourne. And then if that one and that one failed, what happened? Everything routes. And it's like, there was like triple redundancies. It's like, but if something failed, it slowed everything down. And so they were just, I think this was a learning from this thing that happened in the 80s. You need decentralized multiple levels of redundancy. I mean, talking about old phone systems, I grew up with country exchanges where for the small towns, you rang an exchange and they answered you and you go, I want to talk to Bob Smith who lives on 12 Main Street. And they go, okay, connecting you now. And we had manual exchanges when I was a kid.
Yeah. My mum grew up in an age where my mother grew up in an age where you'd have to go to Auntie Norris's place to use the telephone. And leave like 20 cents in the jar to use the telephone
for the bill. Okay, so the old question, was Y2K a hoax?
No, it was not
real.
A hoax.
And I've told this story before. Some consultancies ended up scamming companies, scaring them into doing things they didn't have to do. If we hadn't done anything about Y2K, billing systems would have ceased to work. And of course, companies want to be able to bill you, so they want to do it. And
point of sale systems.
Yep. Anything that measured anything, so all the energy systems would not have worked properly. But I know I got to the stage where I heard stories about these consultancies telling companies, you have to pay us X $1,000 to make sure your escalators are Y2K compliant. And, it got into some real dodgy bullshit. But what we learned, and the best thing, Italy did almost no Y2K prep. And what happened is exactly what I said. None of their billing systems worked. None of their utilities measuring energy use worked. And it took them about a year to get everything working again. So that was worst case scenario. But could you imagine if you're a big company not being able to bill for months to a year? No, they don't want that.
Buy profits.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it did turn in. It wasn't a hoax, but some people did pull scams around it. They started calling embedded systems.
It's actually why I'm
also,
in Australia.
Bear in mind that also here in Australia, as well as Y2K, we also had a little thing called GST introduced in the year 2000.
Was that in the year 2000?
That was in July year 2000. So a lot of computer systems that specifically dealt with money. I know this because I had a job working for a software company specifically dealing with point of sale systems. And the GST rollover was a big deal. I have it scarred in my brain because I had to travel all over the country to help our clients.
Wowzers.
So first I had to deal with Y2K stuff, and then I had to deal with GST rollover.
Yeah.
And like that was a big deal for us.
Yeah. So I
all
was just
that
looking
work,
up
grinding wheels for very little profit.
Yeah. I was looking up the history. People had been trying to do it since 1969, and it kept popping up in the 90s, and the legislation finally went through in 99, and it came. I thought it was way older than that.
And
What's
so
that?
I was mentioning the fact that so my father and my family obviously was based. We lived in New Zealand. My father worked in the IT consulting industry, and all the work dried up after the year 2000 because
It sure did. That happened here too.
Every single company was investing in their IT systems to deal with the Y2K bug, and we moved over to Australia because, as Dr. Abigail has just mentioned, they were introducing
The GST.
GST in all the banking systems. So that's actually the reason why I now live in Australia. So
Are you a Kiwi?
I'm a Kiwi. Yeah, I was born in Wellington.
Damn.
It was
There you go.
The no IT work was a combination of companies had blown their budget on Y2K stuff, and secondly, they twigged that all of these consultancies did actually scam them for millions of dollars, and they were super fucking angry. But what was funny is they refused to spend money on IT for about 3 years. I know this because I was desperately looking for work in that period. And 2-3 years is plenty of time for every IT system to collapse horribly. Because no one's, and then suddenly
especially back then.
Suddenly there was lots of work that was paying really well because they'd spent no money on their infrastructure for 2 or 3 years, and everything was collapsing.
Well, the cycle of obsolescence was much shorter back then as well.
Oh, it sure was. Yeah.
It was like a solid 18 months.
Yeah, everything completely
rather than the
changed in
3-4
18
years.
Yeah. So it was it was a hell of a time. Anyway, Pat, you've come back just in time to say good night because it's coming up on 10 o'clock. So I'm going to
he's smiling. Say good night.
Yeah, someone's going to say good night. That's what's. This feels like one of these times where I need to make the official statement for the stream. Pat is definitely not the most feared contract killer in Australia. I want to go
Definitely
on the record. I want to go on the record as saying that isn't true. And
we don't know anything about his dirty dealings.
I have not
underworld
heard
dealings.
I have not heard all the stories of people in the underworld who are terrified of that smile being the last thing they see. I've never heard Pat's name and the phrase "smiling assassin" used in the same sentence. None. So that's. I just need to get out front of that. I need to get out front of that and make that completely clear.
Disavow all knowledge of that.
Yeah, it's. I know nothing.
Good night, everyone.
Night, everyone. If you're around Thursday, we'll be around on Thursday.